Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning bilingual podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me se puede ver con subtítulos en español. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Join me and my guests as we dive into conversations around orgasm equality, self-love, body positivity, and essential sexual education. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last week, I spoke with Laurel Roberts-Meese about how to communicate with your partner if you have a history of sexual assault or abuse. This conversation, although deep, was also hopeful because you can use this information as a springboard for open communication and to build deeper healing and a more authentic and connected love life. If this resonates, be sure to go back and listen. I am beyond thrilled and deeply honored to be nominated for 2 ASN Awards. The categories are Best Educator and Best Educator Website, so be sure to check out my website to see all the great educational resources there, including my favorite products I use myself for optimal health, as well as my beautifully curated sex toy store. You can vote daily, so check the show notes to cast your vote and help me bring these wins home. I'm so grateful for every one of you. Thank you for your support. Did you know that podcasts rely on listener support to keep bringing you the content you love? For the best way to support the show, join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, early releases, bonus episodes, and exclusive content. Please Me is for mature audiences. Sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me.
I had a pretty dramatic, emotional breakdown, if you will. And it was funny because some of the comments were, man, that woman needs therapy. Well, I'm like, no shit, really? I'd been in therapy since I was like 9. So yeah, I need therapy. I need more therapy. But in all seriousness,
Don't we all? ASN Lifestyle Magazine is your go-to source for sex-positive, sophisticated content covering everything from the swinger lifestyle and adult entertainment to intimacy, wellness, and more. You can read every digital issue for free, and subscribers get access to exclusive content. See the show notes for the link to subscribe and check out their Instagram. I'm excited to share that I now have a monthly column in ASN called Big Clit Energy, a Please Me series. Don't miss it and subscribe today.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. Like with the road trippers we see here in their natural habitat, the breakfast area at a Comfort Inn. Here's a dad teaching his son how to make waffles. Fluffy, golden waffles. There's a mom making sure her daughter eats some fruit to avoid the "I'm hungry" from the back seat. And a sibling standoff over the last muffin. This is the cycle of vacation maximizationing in all its glory. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Hello, and welcome to Please Me, the podcast that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health by turning the sheets into our classroom. Today, I am so excited to welcome Lanette West to the show. She is a reality TV star from the HBO Max and TLC's MILF Manor. She is here to talk all about love and life on and off the set. And I just want to welcome you. And I'm so excited to talk to you today. How are you?
I am wonderful. And thank you so much for having me. This is a treat. This is a real treat.
I am curious because I did a little research about the show and I understand that there's 2 seasons, right? And you had mentioned that they're vastly different. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I want to know, what is your gut feeling about the acronym MILF? I'm just curious to know how you feel about that.
It is one that I am familiar with, that I've heard a lot in my lifetime. I find it vulgar for obvious reasons.
Of course, yeah.
It's a little much. And then to have it applied to me personally, it took some getting used to. I can say after my experience on the show, the meaning of MILF has grown on me, or I've really let down some of those boundaries that I had before about it. And to me, it signifies much more than just what the acronym stands for.
I agree. I was divorced about 8 years ago, and it was the first time I heard that acronym, and I was shocked. And I was like, that's a thing? I didn't realize that people actually were interested in this particular group of women, but it makes sense. Women who have been married or have children, they have to have people that are sexually and physically attracted to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kids. So it makes sense that they might be a section of society that might be attracted to other people. I definitely now also feel like I embrace it more so than I ever did before. And so I absolutely agree with you. That goes with the term cougar too. And I recently saw online a woman who said, a cougar, somebody just called me a cougar, and she said, a cougar is a woman who likes to have sex with younger men, goes after younger men particularly. She said, but there's a difference. I'm a woman who younger men like to have sex with. And she said, there's a big difference there. And I was like, you know what? That is so true, because that's not something that like you actively seek, right? Or maybe some people do. Maybe people that are really true cougars would actively seek. But if you're an attracted woman, you're going to be attracted to many different ages. You want to just jump in and make a comment about that?
I think a lot of times people may use those terms interchangeably, and they're, in my opinion, very different. There are nuances there, right? Like you said, the cougar is an older woman preying, if you will, upon younger men, whereas a MILF is just about the woman, and that could be appealing to someone older than her, someone her age, or even someone younger than her. So I think MILF encompasses a broader spectrum of applicants, if you will, than the cougar. And there are negative connotations to both, but I think really what it's doing is trying to encapsulate some kinks that people have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I agree. And I am definitely part of the kink community. 45% of women consider themselves, or 45% of Americans consider themselves kinky. So I am maybe in the minority, but only by just a little bit. And it's very common to have kinks. And so I absolutely agree with you. Having kinks is just a natural part of life, and being able to express that with your partner is so important, because if you have a kink that you never express, you're never going to really truly be satisfied. And that's why a lot of people go outside of marriages to find those kinks in other people, because they're not able to communicate that. So are you divorcee, or tell me about your history? Tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah. One quick comment though on the kink thing.
Yes.
45% admit to having one. 55% just haven't figured theirs out yet.
Exactly.
I'm a firm believer that there's that in all of us. And maybe there's a spectrum of kinkiness, right?
Absolutely.
But who are we to judge? And one thing may be kinky to one person that's not kinky to somebody else. But yeah, I think that sexual exploration is absolutely key to both a fulfilling sexual life and a fulfilling life in general.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. And coming from a divorce situation where I was in a sexless relationship for many years, I promised myself that would never be the case for the rest of my life. So, now I really embrace my sexual being. And so I am assuming that you do too, having been on the show, MILF Manor. So tell me what that was like. How was it like being on the show?
It was an interesting experience. There are pros and cons to everything, and it's all about your perspective. And I really like to look back on that time as a very positive experience. I learned a lot about myself. I expressed a lot about myself. I shared a lot about myself, but I also learned a lot about other people too. And I'll be honest, it was just cool because you got the star treatment there for a while on set and working with the audio people every morning, getting mic'd up. And then you got the cameraman. And for someone like me who loves attention, it was very appealing. It was a lot of hard work, though. I think a lot of people may not recognize that. There were no days off. And we were filming every morning by 8 o'clock at the latest, really. And then some nights would go into the early morning hours of the next day. And that meant you had to get back up in the morning and be ready to go by 8 o'clock. It was some exhausting work, both physically and emotionally. And another thing that people I don't think realize is that they take away all your identity, if you will. They take away your phone, your wallet, your passport, your laptop, everything. And you're sequestered for a period of time. And then when you get to the house, there's no music. There's no TV. There are no labels. You can't, we had to drink out of cups because you couldn't have soda cans. There were a lot of those kinds of limitations. And then sprinkle in a bunch of unpredictability. It was turbulent at times because I'm a planner. I have 3 planners I work out of, and there was nothing that was being planned. You didn't know moment to moment what was going to happen. They'd be like, hey, go get your swimsuits on. We're getting ready to jump on a bus, going to the beach. Let's go.
Okay.
And
wow.
Then all of a sudden someone new would show up and you're like, who the hell is this? What's going on? So there was this constant surprise element and unpredictability and spontaneity. And while I like to be impulsive and spontaneous, in that kind of environment, when you added on to each other, it had this cumulative effect. It became quite stressful for me personally. Now, I think some of the other participants took it in stride and it wasn't a big deal for them. But for me personally, it was challenging, especially at the end of my tenure there.
Fair enough. And we were talking briefly on our pre-call about the difference between season 1 and season 2 and how they did a bait and switch on you. And in season 1, I was looking at some of the YouTube clips about how they introduced the men and the women. And when they exposed everybody to each other, the women realized that their sons were actually on the other side and they were going to be the ones that these other women were going to be dating. And I was flipping out. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is craziness. But that was not the case for season 2. But they did do a little bait and switch on you. Can you tell me what that was?
Yeah. And true, the day before filming, I thought I was on a show called Northern Love. Okay. There was absolutely no mention of MILF Manor. It was considered top secret that they were even doing a season 2.
Okay.
And it was the day before filming started. I was sequestered to my hotel room and a producer comes in and says, hey, don't you want to know what show you're on? And I'm like, what do you mean? What show am I on? And I'm on Northern Love. It's the dating reality show. And he goes, no, you're on MILF Manor season 2. And I was stunned and I'm rarely speechless, but I just sat there for a second processing this. And I'm like, oh, wait, isn't that the show where the moms date their sons? And I have a son in his 20s. And I looked at the producer and I said, if my son's here, we're not participating. I have a boundary there. And to the producer's credit, they were like, calm down, Lanette. Your son's not here. There'll be other twists and turns, but it's not going to be that way again. And they did a good job of just reassuring me, you're not going to get fired Because again, the negative connotations with the word MILF, it's a little vulgar, and being a professional person with a daughter, and I didn't want necessarily to be associated with something like that. But I can tell you that the production, all of the cameramen, everybody were so incredibly professional and kind and supportive that it turned into be a much better experience than I initially thought when I heard the words MILF Manor.
Good. I'm glad that you had a better experience after knowing that your son wouldn't be on it. And I think I would have had that exact same reaction. Yeah, that is a boundary. That's a hard no. That's a hard no for me. I couldn't have gone through with it after I saw my son across the way. I have kids, but my kids are younger. But I don't think that I could have been able to do that. So I appreciate that you would also have that same boundary, because I don't know, it just seems like a little much. But so tell me, so you mentioned that you have a daughter, and I want to know like what your friends and family had to say about your experience on the show and having watched you be on the show.
Yeah, it was mixed reviews. And I can honestly say people were either really kind and supportive or they were silent. Before the show, when I still thought it was Northern Love, my son was fairly indifferent. He was like, yeah, Mom, do it. I don't care. You're not going to embarrass me.
And that's cool.
And my daughter was actively encouraging, and she was very supportive, because there was a time where I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to do this. This is not a good idea. And she was like, Mom, she's like, think about it. Like, how many people have the opportunity to do this? Why not? Try it out. Who knows what could come of it? And I live by that philosophy of I don't regret the things I do, because even bad experiences have value, because you can learn from it.
Absolutely. Learn from your mistakes too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I didn't expect it or anticipate it being a mistake. Again, it's about perspective. There's a silver lining in everything, and it's just how you choose to look at it. And I choose to take the high road and be positive and try to take away all of those positives that I can from the experience, for sure.
Good. And I think that's fair, because why not? And if you're looking for a love connection or even just some sexy friendships, this could be a fun experience. And sometimes we need a little injection of spice into our lives. So with that being said, I'm curious, did you make any spicy connections on the show? And are you in touch with anybody from the show still?
Yes, a spoiler alert for anyone watching the show. But yes, I did have a connection with Anthony. He was one of the dads. So that was the twist.
Okay.
I showed up day one, and then their sexy fathers showed up day two. And I was blown away. A part of it was relief, because I was like, thank God there's age appropriate men. You know, I think this will be better for me and my reputation, instead of trying to hit on a 22-year-old that I really just wanted to mother. And my son, some of them were older, but it was a great group of guys for sure. But I was a bit relieved when I saw their dads. And their dads were all very attractive and fun and intelligent, and it was a lot to choose from. But Anthony and I got together, and he was pretty smooth. And unfortunately, things didn't turn out too good for me. He played the field a bit, and I was a little upset by that, because I felt I was being told one thing and then he was doing something else. But I think really what he was doing was he was playing the game. Let's be honest, we were on the show to meet people. And once I started connecting with Anthony, I pretty much shut down any of the possibilities with the other men from a romantic standpoint. I was friendly and made some good friends on the show, but I wasn't going to be juggling multiple men. That's way too labor intensive. But he was not of that spirit, and didn't make a connection with another woman. And it didn't turn out too good. I ended up leaving the show, because I was like, this is not for me. I didn't come here to be humiliated. I have a history with this, and I'm not going to sit by idly and pout and whine and why not choose me? I was like, I'm not going to reward the situation with my presence any longer. And so I did leave. But we remained on good terms. There was a period of time where Anthony and I did not speak. I will tell you. When he first came out of the show, because I left about 5 or 6 days before filming ended. And so he didn't have access to the phone until he wrapped later. And he did call me, and he told me, he said, I just want you to know you're the first person I'm contacting. I just got my phone and I'm calling you. Okay. And that meant a lot. And I appreciated that. And we remain friendly today. He's a great guy. I enjoy spending time with him. We were in LA several times for the show and post-production. And we had, I think a group of us had dinner one night, and I bumped into him in the coffee line at the hotel lobby. And it was great. He's a good guy. I have nothing bad to say about him or his son, Joey, who I find to be really just delightful, both of them. And so now some of the women, I do have an ongoing friendship with Barbie, which has had its ups and downs.
Okay.
But just like any relationship, I think there are going to be some challenges that you have to work through. Sometimes we meet those challenges with grace and compassion, and sometimes we don't. And it is what it is, but we're on good terms. We chat daily. And then Darren, one of the other dads, I've spent some time with him, and he's a great guy too. I enjoy being around him. I haven't really talked to him as much in the past 6 months or so that I would like to, but sometimes life gets in the way. But as far as the other participants, just like in general, you're not going to connect with everybody. Not everybody's.
Absolutely.
And there is some active hatred amongst us, apparently. I try not to invest too much time, energy, or effort in that because I'm looking forward, not backwards, but it is what it is, and wish all the women the best.
That's a great perspective to have. And it's interesting that you went into it with an idea of like really connecting with one person and then shutting out the rest. And I find that a lot of women do that when they're dating, right? When you're dating somebody and you really like them, then you stop dating anyone else and your focus is all on that person without really even having very many deep conversations about whether you are even interested in monogamy, whether you're open to dating other people, because we just have so much energy for dating in our lives when we're moms, and we have a lot of other things going on. And so I understand that a lot of times people are like, okay, I really like this guy, I'm going to invest my time into them. But I always tell my friends, I'm like, don't just put all your eggs in one basket. You've been on 2 dates with the person. Okay, they're great. Fantastic. But keep dating. Keep having fun with other people. You have no idea what their mindset is unless you've really sat down and really spoken to them and you guys have decided that, yes, you guys are going to be together and you guys are going to only see each other. And so assuming that early on is a big mistake, I think, that a lot of women make. And I don't know if that was the case with you, but it just sounded like that when you were explaining it to me. And I feel like I've had this conversation with so many of my friends. Have fun. Dating can just be fun in and of itself.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think from an intellectual standpoint, that's great advice. From an emotional standpoint, I'm one of those all or nothing people. I love hard and heavy, and I don't necessarily spread that around like that. I tend to want to invest in one person if I am investing in them emotionally and physically. Now, in the context of the show, that's a little different too, right? Because it's a very limited pool of folks. And there's also, I was cognizant of the fact that I was on TV and that my children would see this. I didn't necessarily want to spread myself thin, shall we say.
No, I understand. No, I totally understand that.
To be a little more traditional, even though in my real life, I'm not very traditional at all. But that was going to be preserved for posterity forever. So jumping from guy to guy, test driving everything. And in all sincerity, I really liked Anthony. Like he was really a great guy. And I enjoyed the time we spent together to the extent that I just had no interest in spending time with anyone else.
And that's how some of us are. We're really like focused. And would you consider yourself a monogamous person?
I don't know if this is a unique view or not, but I think monogamy is a choice. I don't think it's a natural choice.
It's an absolute choice. That's why I ask. Because I personally, before I even asked you, I'll just tell you that I am in an open relationship and I consider myself ethically non-monogamous. I believe that people should have these conversations and really talk about it because not everybody is monogamous. And so you shouldn't always assume that, even though societally, that is what we're taught is supposed to be the norm, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's for everybody. So that being said,
I've been in multiple open relationships. I have. Okay. The first open relationship I had after my divorce, we're talking, 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. That was difficult for a number of reasons. because I was still very broken or fragile, if you will, coming out of the divorce. And I didn't have the best sexual relationship with my husband at the time. I was still very shameful of my body. I was still very ignorant about what my body could do. I was a mother first and foremost, and I was taking care of my children, and I was progressing my career. And those were the things that took priority. So seeing myself as a sexual being just didn't jive. It's like, how am I going to be swinging from the chandelier one night and then up the next morning making my kids lunches? I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like the dichotomy there, the contradiction there was too much for me.
Right.
And so in a lot of ways, I just repressed my sexuality. I didn't enjoy sex. I didn't participate very often at all, and it was a less than ideal situation, obviously for me, as well as my ex-husband. But so when I got divorced, I was like, what I've been doing isn't working. So let's try something different. And I met a gentleman that kind of opened my eyes to the world and to myself and to my body and my sexuality. And for the first time in my life, as a 40-something, I was embracing my sexuality. Not only was I not shameful about it any longer, I was celebrating it. And the open relationship just seemed like a logical next step. I thought I was secure enough to do it and not get jealous. And I quickly learned, no, I get jealous. I haven't healed myself to the extent that I can successfully participate in an open relationship like that, because it takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of trust, and you can't be jealous. That's, in my opinion, anyway, because that causes so much tension and so many problems. And having come from a relationship where I wanted to be the only one, but I wasn't, it stirred up, I think, a lot of hurt feelings and resentments that I had. So those were some things I needed to work through first. And then later on, the relationships were more successful. They weren't ultimately successful, but I still struggle with that jealousy a bit, as embarrassing as that is. So I haven't really
interesting. It's an emotion just like any other, and it's completely natural and normal. Even for people who are in ethically non-monogamous, swinger, or whatever kind of relationships in the ethical non-monogamy umbrella, jealousy is a huge topic that comes up over and over again. And jealousy is an emotion that needs to be managed throughout the whole experience. And when you really talk about it and you find out what the core to the jealousy is, it's often because you're insecure about who you are. And you were just saying that it brought up a lot of feelings of hurt from your previous relationship, right? But you do have to heal from those previous relationships to be completely present for your next relationship. So I think it brings up a good point. Jealousy is something that comes up, and it always will. You have emotions. It is an emotion. It's like happiness and sadness, and jealousy is one of those. So those do come up, but talking through it can really help to get you to the other side of that, and really actually even connect even further with your partner if that's something that you would be interested in. I'm not saying you should be interested in. I'm just saying in general, for people listening, it is something that can be managed. And so I appreciate your experience and you sharing about it, because I think it's a very common thing that comes up. How do you think you evolved or changed as a person after being a reality star? What is your life now compared to what it was like before?
It's remarkably the same.
Okay.
Recognize. We did a press tour up in New York City in March when right before the show aired, and there was a person that recognized us, and it was really exciting. But in my day-to-day life, if they do recognize me or know me from it, nobody makes any effort to acknowledge it. Maybe they're like embarrassed to say they watched a show called MILF Manor. I don't know. But yeah, it's remarkably normal. I did spend some time with a famous rapper. Right into my DMs after seeing an ad for the show, and I was on the ad, and we struck up a friendship, which was really nice. And I have nothing bad to say about him. He's a really interesting, intelligent, charismatic, talented man. And so that was cool because I got to spend some time like tiptoeing into that celebrity world. And can I just tell you, it's not what all it's cracked up to be. Like, it's not for me. It was a lot. Yeah, but we were friends, and hopefully that friendship will continue for years, but who knows? I don't know. We'll see. So that was cool. But other than that, and having the opportunity to come on podcasts and speak to folks about my experiences, other than that, I still go to work every day. I take care of my kids. I take care of my 3 cats and my dog, and it's remarkably normal.
I love that you mentioned that. And I'm just curious to know what you do for a living.
I work for a data storage company, Fortune 500 here in RTP, which is Research Triangle Park. I've been with them for 13 years as a support account manager in the public sector. And I've been in sort of the telecommunications IT field for almost 30 years now. I came right out of college from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and started with MCI Telecommunications. That may ring a bell. Back in 1996. I worked there for 15 years, and then I transitioned over to the company I'm currently with, and I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of wonderful opportunities, been in the right place at the right time, and I appreciate and I'm grateful for all of those opportunities for sure.
That's wonderful. So that's great that you were able to segue your career after the show right back to where you were. Yeah. And so you went back to normal, and that was a blip in your history that you can look back on and go, I did that. It'll be one of your stories when you're in your 90s and you're telling your great grandchildren about your life. You can just come up with these really funny stories about your life. And they're going to be like, my great grandma did this.
I hope I don't lose my mind first, because then people will be like,
I know you can never lose your memory. You can't after this. I want to get a little bit more serious, because I know that you have a personal relationship to the topics of addiction recovery and mental health. And I'm just curious to know why we like to talk about these particular subjects.
To tie it back into the show, on the episode where I exited stage left, I had a pretty dramatic emotional breakdown, if you will. And it was funny because some of the comments were, man, that woman needs therapy. Well, I'm like, no shit, really? I've been in therapy since I was 9. So yeah, I need therapy. I need more therapy. But in all seriousness,
don't we all?
I absolutely. To have an objective third party person to give you a different perspective on how you think and what you do and how you behave, I think it's invaluable. I think everyone should do it. Highly recommend it. And I don't see it as something like, oh, you're in therapy. Nothing has to be wrong to be in therapy. Sometimes you can use it to elevate your life. It's not necessarily always because there's an issue that needs to be addressed. I have a life coach. I have a therapist, a psychiatrist. It's something that can help every facet of your life, regardless of where you are in your journey. But yeah, I've struggled with mental health since I was a teenager. I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. There are 2 forms of bipolar. For those who may not know, bipolar 1 and 2, the distinguishing factor being the level of the manic episodes, which are the highs. And bipolar 1, you have a psychotic break, and bipolar 2, you don't actually have the break with reality, but you get into what's called a hypomanic state. And I was diagnosed when I was living up in DC when I was 27. I always knew something wasn't right because I didn't behave the same way other people did. My emotions were just huge. People would talk about waves of emotion. I'm like, no, I have tsunamis of emotion. Okay. They are very big and very hard to process and to understand and deal with. And so after the diagnosis, there was somewhat of a relief there, because I was like, now I know what I'm dealing with. The erratic behavior, the staying up for 3 or 4 days in a row and not understanding why I couldn't sleep, the depression, the suicidal ideations, where is this all coming from? It was somewhat comforting to give it a diagnosis, because then I felt like I could formulate a plan of attack on how to manage it. And the good news there being is it's a chemical imbalance in my brain. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't deserve this. It's just the way it is. Somebody that gets diabetes or has a kidney problem. It's just another organ in the body that's not functioning optimally. And with the benefit of medication, I've lived a remarkably normal life, but I've been able to be successful in the endeavors I've chosen to take on. And I'm graduated from college. I obviously have a career, I have kids, and so it's a somewhat normal life in existence. I'm not like institutionalized somewhere, which is great. That we can work through these things and we can manage it not only with medication, but obviously with therapy, a lot of therapy, talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, things like that. And something that made me very vulnerable to, unfortunately, and I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist or a scientist, so I'm not speaking from that perspective, just with my experience, the bipolar made me susceptible to substance abuse disorder as well. So I was always a big partier as a teenager in college. And once I started having my children in my 20s, all that came to a screeching halt, and I pivoted into adulthood, being a mom, being a professional, being a wife, being those things. And then after my divorce, I guess I was trying to redefine myself, and you make one bad decision. And that led me down a very dark road in the form of addiction. And my drug of choice was cocaine. And what turned out, or what I thought was just going to a pool party to hang out for a bit, and oh, there's powder there. Ooh, I've heard about this. I may have dabbled in this in college, and oh, I remember that's some good shit. One bad decision, and then once I did it that first time, as they like to say, the rest is history, and it escalated into a very scary place. And fortunate enough that I was able to have the resources and the family support to get the help that I needed. And I'm happy to report, as of July 18th, so coming up on this July 18th, I will be 1,000 days clean. So it'll be
very good, very good. Congratulations. That's a big deal. And it can happen at any time. And I appreciate the story, because really you were already well into your adulthood and past the point of where most people would think this could happen, and one bad decision. And if you have a propensity for something like this, right, and you liked it, then suddenly your body is going to crave that and crave that. And so I appreciate you telling your story. It's so important for all of us to understand that at any age we can become addicted to any kind of drug. And so thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. It's important for everybody to know that it can really happen at any time. And we do go through emotional ups and downs throughout our lives. Divorce is like a huge one where you have a lot of, it's very sad. And so I can see a lot of people end up drinking a lot more afterwards, or whatever that may be. Sometimes the drinking causes the divorce. Other addictions can certainly be there as well. So I appreciate you sharing your story. And do you do things in terms of supporting like organizations, or do you do any kind of talks or anything like that regarding that? Or is that something that you're interested in?
It's something I've done up to this point, but it's absolutely something I'm interested in, specifically like within the law enforcement area. I would love to be able to advocate for not only drug addicts and recovery, but also for folks suffering from mental illness, to bring some awareness within the law enforcement community. There is a lot of awareness, but to be able to provide perhaps some firsthand perspective, because you may not necessarily expect a mentally ill drug addict to look like I look, and to be the age I am, and to have had some of the experiences I've had. But it can happen to anyone at any time. And I think we are all should be afforded the luxury of compassion and understanding and forgiveness, because when you get down to the root issue here, it's trauma. Not every person with trauma becomes an addict, but every addict has trauma. And I'm no exception to that. So trauma is the root of everything. And then everything else blossoms out of that. And my cocaine use specifically was just a form of self-medication. It was a way to numb myself from the pain that I had always felt, and the discomfort. God, that's not the right word, but I don't know how else to explain it. It's like your
pain. I think pain explains it all. You know what I mean? Pain doesn't have to be like a stab in the arm. It can be like heart pain. It can be like mental pain. So I do think that's a great way to explain it. And so thank you for sharing your story about that. That's really powerful. And we will definitely include in the show notes some hotlines for people who are suffering from any kind of addiction. I think it's really important to connect people. And so thank you. And that leads us to our role play.
It's a real privilege to be able to travel and to see different places, taking yourself out of comfortable positions and challenging yourself.
No one builds a legacy by standing still. Start your journey at remova.com.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
The rural way of life is about making everyone feel at home. Tractor Supply chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform intelligent customer service. Together, we put the power of AI to work across 2,200 stores, keeping things running seamlessly inside, curbside, and countryside. This is elevated customer experience. This is Tractor Supply with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
And this is the part of the show where me and my guest create a role play. And so we decided that we were going to be like girlfriends, and we're just talking about dating in general. And you met somebody on Tinder that you're going to tell me about, and we're going to talk about we'll get into it when we get into it. Action. Lanette, I know you've been dating somebody recently, and I haven't had a chance to talk to you. I want to know all about what's been going on with you.
I've heard about this tool or this app called Tinder. So of course, naturally, I had to check it out. It's definitely a hookup site. Okay. You're not going to find your forever. Now, I speak in generalities. There are exceptions to everything. But my experience, and to tell you the truth, even my intention really is to find something more casual.
Okay.
And it's really nice because you can filter out the things that you're not interested in, and you can tell pretty quickly if they're your type. And also, I'll say your type isn't always what's the best for you. Just because you like it and it makes you feel good doesn't mean it's good for you. But yeah, it's nice. And like you were talking about earlier, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Tinder allows you to have lots of baskets.
Okay. So are you dating more than one person right now for Tinder, or is there one special person that have been dating? Tell me about your experience.
I think what I like to use Tinder for is to build my roster.
Okay.
My starting 5. Because you never know. And they change. Number 3 could move up to number 1. Number 2 could move to number 5. Depends on availability and your mood.
I love that.
It gives you options. And because not every person gives you everything you need. Like you may have one guy that likes to take you to dinner and another guy that likes to go hike. And I like to do both. So that works out well. But
I love that.
Yeah, it's a neat way to find what you're looking for, because a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what I'm looking for until I find it. And then I'm like, this is it. And so it gives you an opportunity to tap dance around that and dip your toe in the water to see, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. Let's run with this. But again, like you said, you don't want to remove those options from yourself because you may pass on somebody that could have been a really good match for you.
That's true, actually. And I've gone on a lot of second dates where I was like, maybe not, but let me just give them a second chance. And they've actually turned out to be great people that I'm still connected to. So I think that is a great perspective. And it's nice to have that top 5 roster. I love that concept, because when you're dating and you're putting your eggs all in one basket and you've never really had the conversation of whether the person feels the same way about you, you might get your feelings hurt. When you're dating generally, and like dating more than one person, you can really just enjoy the experience. And then maybe one avenue will eventually become something more serious. Dating can just be fun in and of itself. So I have a question about your sex life, because I'm curious to know if there's any intimacy going on with any of these top 5. And if there is, tell me how you like go about that.
Yeah, first of all, let's define intimacy, because I don't think I have a traditional definition of it. Because what is really intimate to me is conversations, kissing, cuddling, spending a lot of time together, sharing things about yourself that you aren't particularly proud of and that you don't necessarily share with others. It's peeling back the covers on who you are as a person. Like, to me, that is intimate. The sexual part of it, obviously there's a level of intimacy there, but it's a little more of a playground effect. You know what I mean? I think it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exploratory, experimental. How do you know if you got a kink unless you try it out? How do you know you like something until you try it out? So it gives you an opportunity to explore that part of yourself, not only of your body, but of your mind as well. So I probably don't have necessarily the most traditional perspective on it. And no, my children will not be listening to this until they're much older. But that's the way I look at it. I know society has told us that a woman having multiple sexual partners is undesirable. And I got to call bullshit on that.
Me too.
You know?
Yes,
I think
body count is bullshit.
It's a way to suppress our sexuality, because if we want to really break it down, we have the power, and the men know that. And if we harness that power, it threatens the patriarchy all the way to the top. So how do you suppress it? You shame them,
right,
into keeping our sexuality to ourselves and not having a lot of partners. So I'm not a big believer or supporter of that. I think I call bullshit. But I will also respect other people's choices and decisions about how they choose to live their life, in hopes that they don't pass judgment or ridicule on how I may choose to live mine.
Absolutely. I love that open-mindedness and no judgment zone. And I absolutely call bullshit on that too. It's absolutely the patriarchy trying to control us as women. And when you throw shame out the window and you embrace your sexuality, the sky is the limit as to how much you can experience. And for me, sex is a spiritual practice. So really, it is a way to connect with somebody on a higher level and on a higher spiritual level too. So it really can help you to connect in that way when you are really, truly connected with somebody. So I think it's a beautiful thing. And I appreciate you being so honest about your actual definition of intimacy, because I agree with you. Intimacy is a continuum of many different things. It's not just sex. And scene. That was so much fun. Oh my goodness. So I want to make sure that my listeners can find you. Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram is really creative and original. It's Lanette.West. And then my Facebook is Lanette West. And those are the two primary social media platforms. I'm also on TikTok, but I tend to be more of a voyeur there than an actual participant.
Okay.
I have to make a better effort to put up some TikToks. But yeah, I'm on TikTok as well. And I think that's Lanette.West too. It shouldn't be hard to find.
Very good. If you want to reach out to Lanette, I would love for you to do that. And that is her Instagram there. And if you want to find me, my show is Please Me, and my website is pleaseme.online, where you can find a whole host of webinars. And I have a sexy toy store there that I like to address or send people to. Sometimes I'll send my clients there. I also do intimacy coaching. So if you're interested in that. And another thing that you mentioned, you had a therapist and you also had a life coach. And I think that is a really great way to think about it. I feel like therapy really focuses on healing from your past history and how to integrate that into your life now, where coaching really focuses on the present and moving into the future. And if you are out there listening and you're interested in health coaching or in intimacy coaching, you can reach out to me on pleaseme.online. And Lanette, this has been so much fun, such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Until next time. For ad-free listening, exclusive bonus episodes, Eve's library of archived webinars, and early access to new releases of Please Me, become a monthly supporter on Patreon. Simply open the Patreon app on your phone, search for Please Me, and subscribe today for premium content and more. Cheers to finding your pleasure and big clit energy.